fundamentally obvious thing to work on the mental side of life, school or sport. And everyone, I think, understands that it's important, but I think what we lack is how do we get to it, and how do we get to the tools, and how do we find practical ways to actually learn that skill and then implement it. So what I love about the course that you've got and that we've kind of going is that it really takes all that sort of, yes, we want to be mentally, but it bridges the gap between the concept and the practical side. So I feel very strongly that anybody who does this course is going to benefit in a number of ways, and we'll go through those in a moment. But in our academy, we talk to so many of our parents and our players, and we love them, but the consistent theme is anxiety, performance, pressure, and underperformance, because we see their skills in training and then their skills in the game doesn't always translate. It's not for all players. Some often we see underperformance, and it's really sad because they end up feeling worse about themselves, and that's really not the point of sport. So in order for us to optimize the growth and the amazing joy that sport should give us, I think we need to tackle this element of mental strength, so constantly feeling great and good and better than we would if we didn't have mental tools.
Yeah, and I think if we can just separate the difference between mental health and mindset. So mental health is the depression and the anxiety, which is key for any performance. And then the mindset is actually the skills that you train, just like you train a drag flick or any other skills. So it's something that can be trained and practiced in practice, so that you're ready when the pressure's on.
Yeah.
So that's just something that would be wonderful. I see that Dayan Kasim has joined the call. I don't know if he wants to join the discussion and talk about how they've just finished a series, and they finished on a really high note yesterday. And I wonder if he wants to maybe join. Just give a thumbs up, Diane, if you do or don't, just to say like the importance of the mindset and how it can help or hinder you when performing.
Yeah. All right, let's give him to decide on that maybe. But Joe, we'll carry on and we'll see who wants to comment and everything. But yeah, I mean, we spoke about the men's performance. The ladies have had some great games and some other games we're going to learn from. But I know you worked with the ladies SA side previously on the Strengths Finder, which is another wonderful tool. And you worked with other athletes with this gazing red to blue. Maybe before we go into the context, we can just touch again on some of the, I mean, when you look at the gazing red to blue website, it's impressive. They've worked with the All Blacks, they've worked with people in various different sporting arenas and with huge success. You can just touch a little bit onto what they look to achieve and how they approach things maybe.
So the philosophy of gazing red to blue is really looking at attention. So they've got a little saying that they use is where your attention goes, your energy flows. So it's a simple tool and technique that you are able to use in the moment. So we develop practical skills that you can use in the moment in a pressure scenario. They also actually use these skills in the workplace. So they will train up corporates, because everybody feels pressure. And I think that's important in the training, that people understand that they're not alone. And often by sharing, one of the things that we do is we explain what a bad day looks like. And everybody will give their different bad days. And it just gives perspective to everybody about that pressure exists for everybody. And we all experience it on a different level. So there are skills that you can just get perspective on how you're experiencing the pressure. And some pressure helps accelerate you to perform, and some pressure actually makes you disabled basically. And so it's just recognizing that and getting perspective on what the reality is. It's also during this process we look at expectations. We look at expectations of the youngsters. We look at expectations. Where's the pressure coming from? So where there's expectations, there's pressure. And so, like I was talking to a swimmer today, it's the expectations of the country, it's the expectations of the parents, it's the expectations of the coach, and then there's your own expectations.
Yeah.
And that creates pressure. So it's getting perspective on your pressure and managing it.
Yeah.
So that's.
I love how they talk about the effect of pressure, how pressure relates to performance and vice versa. And I think in hockey, we're focusing on hockey, but we often with the youngsters, and I mean even into club and provincial and senior levels, but this word composure. And you have those players that just look like they've got all the time in the world, and time for them seems to stand still, and they can execute, they can look up, they can decide, and all in a split second. Whereas I see a lot of junior players doing what we call the panic pass. So they feel the pressure almost in a heightened way, and we'll say to them, you had more time, you have more time, you can take a beat, but they feel like they've got zero time, and they just panic and they just execute, and in that moment they can make the wrong decision, make the wrong pass, duff the pass, or whatever. I think that composure and the pressure and the performance all interlink. So if hockey players gain composure, I think it enhances their game almost immediately.
Yeah. So Sue, if people sign up for the course and do it, they'll receive a booklet, and in that booklet they'll get a map, and it's a mindset map where they'll get there's a red head and there's a blue head, and there's a whole lot of dialogue in the red head, and there's a lot of in the blue head. And so what did you call that pass?
The panic pass.
The panic pass. So in the panic pass, that's basically like being in the red head, where it's noisy and it's complicated, and your heart rate's fast and your head is spinning, and there's no clarity. There's no clarity. And there could be negative dialogue going on as well. And often in the red head, you're thinking about, oh, the last time that we were playing that team, this happened, and if I don't get this pass, then we might lose. So your thinking is backward and it's future based. So you're not present. So the job of my goal is to help these individuals shift from red head into the blue head, where blue is clear thinking, it's quiet, it feels like you're in slow motion. Like you said, the person's got all the time in the world, and that the mind has practiced that so often that they probably do feel like they've got all the time in the world. So that is the shift, and to expect people to always be in the blue is unrealistic. So it's also accepting that you're going to shift from red to blue, but it's being mindful that I'm in the red and I need to shift it into the blue. And those are the skills that we're going to teach.
Jo, just before we get into having a quick run through the content in the different weeks, which I think is also going to be nice for people to see, what's actually in there. Something else that I think comes up, our focus is the junior players, age sort of 10 to 18, but certainly doesn't exclude, a mature player. And I think, these youngsters are still maturing. So a range of different skills are hard for them, not technical side. I'm talking the mental side, So one thing that I think will also be beneficial, and I see this with a lot of from their parents, people in their team or friends or frenemies, the people around them can sometimes have such a negative impact on them, and it can really make it harder for them on the field if there's a person in their team who they don't to them, and who they then start to get a real anxiety around their own performance, and how they can then use these tools to quieten down any outside voice, any of their own negative stuff that people are now judging them and making them feel inadequate. So I think that's also something which will be really helpful for some players to deal with teammates and negative teammates possibly.
Yeah, and so I've worked with some teens, like the one diver that I'm working with, she's a youngster, and what's actually quite difficult, that's not a team sport obviously, but you're diving with the people who you're going to be competing against. And so it's being friendly, and the same for swimming. You're training with the people who you're going to be competing against. So they're your friends during the week and your competitors on the weekend. Like, just say that, okay? So so that we say with the red to blue that mindset is a skill, and it's the skill that you've got to train to be able to recognize that uncomfort or that discomfort exists, and it's accepting it on some level, that whatever you can, and that it's business on the field.
Yeah.
And if that person person is being X, Y, and Z, you have no control of what they do, but you have control of what you do and how you execute, and that will influence the outcome of the rest of the team. For example, you've got no control whether you win or lose, but what you do has influence of the result of the team.
Sure.
So those are little skills that they will learn, and learn to take responsibility for their part in a team.
Okay, great, Jo. So before, so maybe dive into the content here, but just to sort of recap, when I look at the Gazing Red to Blue program, I think the three things that are clear to me in terms of potential objectives or desired outcomes is a clear mind, the ability to focus, and the ability to develop resilience on the hockey field. Those three things I think could be like a sort of a summary, possibly, if I'm right. It's for players. I think we said probably 10, 11 is our bottom line of entry. Anyone, I mean, there's no bit per se, but we will be dividing the group that we get hopefully into sort of equal ages depending on the numbers that we get. So stick with us and divide those up, but we'll make it age appropriate groups. So anybody who would like to let us know, and we will then be in contact. The first session that we're going to run is going to be a parent session, if I'm right, Jo, so that the parents whose children are joining us on this journey can understand what he's doing, and then the parents have the right sort of discussions around the dinner table and support them. But then explain.
Yeah, so that's absolutely fantastic, because the reality, what's beautiful about a team sport, as a family, that's your first team. You know, your system, that's your first team. And so the Gazing Red to Blue, it creates a platform of communication that you're speaking the same language, so that you can check in with each other what your triggers are, what trips your lights, what makes you feel stressed, what diverts you, what are the distractions. And once you are mindful of that yourself, you can communicate that to others. And so I think it's effective if parents understand the journey that their youngsters are going on. And it's not to ask them, what did you learn today? Because they'll all tell you nothing. But that if you can, as a parent, say, it looks like you're in a redhead, and it's to jolt them so that they've got the skills to get into the clear thinking, the things that they can do, the positive mindset, and to shift from distraction. So we're going to do the parents thing first. And what would be interesting is if they've got any questions or concerns, they can also help guide me in the sessions to add those in, which will beef it up, make it more exciting.
Brilliant.
Okay. So should I talk about what I'm going to cover in session 1 and 2? I'm not obviously going to give too much detail, otherwise. Okay. So as I said, everyone who joins will receive a booklet, and it's a detailed booklet with a bit of information, and all the tools are in there. So that's what the booklet is, and there are a whole lot of tools and exercises in the book. Okay, so that's number 1, and so we'll work on the tools, which is the performance line, the performance triangle, and the control circles. And those are the first things that they will learn about: where their pressure is coming from, where the distractions are coming from, how to shift from the red to the blue. We have a look at structures, what structures. So for the performance equation is the triangle. I'll give you an example of that. So we look at the structures. We looked at, have they set their goals? Are they short-term goals? Are they goal-specific? Are they game-specific? When it gets to a high level, we even do practice-specific, so training-specific. So they've got to have a goal for their training session. And it's measurable, so they rate it out of 10. And in the structures, when they get to a high level, it's about travel, it's about logistics, it's about who you're sleeping with. That sounds very, very dodgy. But like Lejeanne is on the court at the moment, she's a professional golfer. When you are traveling overseas with other players, it's who you're rooming with, because that has impact on your sleep. It has impact on how much social media you're looking at. So all those type of things falls into structures. And as much detail as everybody can put down, they are able to rate it. And that rating is before competition or practice, and then it's something they can assess afterwards as well. Then we look at, in part of the triangle, are the skill sets. Those are sport specific, so that's specific to your sport, and that includes your drag flicks, your pushes, your stops, your short corner stop, your blah blah blah, but it also includes your stretching, your gym, your rehab, your sleep, your all that type of thing. So it's much more holistic than just your hitting and stopping. And then I include the mindset, and those we'll develop. That's where we're going to introduce zooming in and out skills. So the whole program is developing a pre-performance process where they'll develop mindset skills that they can practice it building up to competition, and then they'll have skills that they can use during competition and during play. And then we've got post-competition evaluation, debriefing, cooling down. It's a cooling down techniques. And so that's the whole process. But so that the first bit is introducing the concept of what red to blue is, and some tools, and just understanding what pressure is. So I'll do a whole lot of exercise so they can identify what their pressure looks like, where it comes from, and how others in the group experience it differently, where they feel it physically or mentally, and how it presents in their performance.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so that is session 1 and 2. Has anybody got any questions? If you do have any questions, just pop them into the comments and it'll pop up and I will be able to see that. So if anybody's got any questions, please do that. Then in session 3, I would have given them a bit of homework, nothing hectic, just some little things that they would have done in our session, and then they can go and unpack it at home on their own. And then we're going to look at pressure scenarios. So I'll want them to give practical examples of being in pressure scenarios and how it made them feel. So once you recognize that pressure exists, I want them to attach a feeling to it. So because as youngsters, as the hormones kick in, the feelings are up and down. And what's key is to give them an emotional vocab that they can then articulate what's going on. And just by doing that, gives them choice which way they want to move. So by giving them the practical scenarios, it deepens their understanding. There's a video, I'm not going to tell you which video it is, which gives a very clear example of someone in a hugely precious scenario, and through clear thinking, through practiced both behavior and mindset, they were able to execute well what they needed to do. I will then bring in a tool called the what ifs. And this tool can be used often and always. And it's about what if this happens, what if that happens, and having a plan B. So generally that's linked to all your fears. And like with my diver and my swimmer, it's also before you travel. And there's something called the suck cascade, where you create your worst case scenario. So you've written your worst case scenario, and then it's being absolutely articulate of what you can do if those things were to happen. And the reason for that is to reduce pressure, because you want to clear as much headspace as possible so that people can perform optimally. Okay. Then we would have started introducing the rituals. And those are connected to our senses. And I would have asked people to start thinking about them, practicing them at home, finding out what would work for them. And the rituals, if you can think of Rafa Nadal, like before he serves, every time he does that whole ritual. It doesn't have to be as visual as that, but it's a step-by-step process to take your attention inwards and to zoom you in. And so that will all take up that. And then in that session, I will also give them the priority planner, which is in the book, and then the map. And in the priority planner, it will be about obviously looking at your priorities, what's needed. So we'll have a look at the triangle, and from the triangle, we'll look at what's the priority, what needs most attention, what's working, what can be improved upon, what is looking good, etc. Again, it's having clarity on what's going on. As I said, we're going to look at expectations, and expectations create pressure, and pressure creates consequences. So what are the consequences of those expectations and pressure?
Josie, can I also just get on to probably session 6 in the webinar in a moment, but I know also that you mentioned to me before, and something that was so resonated with me so much, because I have a child who's got interesting triggers, that I think somewhere in there you'll also talk about triggers, because pressure triggers or anxiety triggers differently for different players. So once you're aware of what triggers are, you're a little bit more able to handle them when they're flipped, and what's causing it, and then obviously try and get on top of it.
Yeah, so we're going to do triggers in session 3 and 4. And so it's identifying people triggers, situational triggers, game pressure triggers. It's all the things which would trip your lights. But so we first got to connect with the body, and then it's people, places, and things that we'll look at. And that's why the group session is so awesome, because sometimes you don't realize that is what is your trigger. And by somebody else sharing, it can help activate, oh, yes, that is what really stresses me out, or that's really what takes my mind off what I'm trying to achieve. For example, in an exam, you might be thoroughly prepared, and then somebody rushes up to you before the exam and goes, oh, I haven't studied the I or the whatever, and have you, and what happens if we fail? And then that might derail you and take you off. So it's understanding that person might be your trigger, or that kind of behavior might be the triggers, or whatever it is. We definitely do triggers, and we do it often. Okay, we do that often. Then, and just so you know that I'm recapping all the way through. So it's never like, okay, we've done the line, the pressure line at the beginning, and that's the end, or that we've done the control circles, and that's the end. I'm bringing them in all the time, because they're going to use them all the time in different scenarios. You know, like as I said, Z's leaving for Doha this evening, and so she's busy doing her what ifs, she's doing her circles, and then she's doing a performance triangle on the plane. That's just like on her way there, where she got quiet time, and she's able to just do that. And she does that often. So these are things that they will use always and often. Then in session 5, I'll introduce a cross check. They've got it in their toolkit, and the cross check is, so after performance, it's checking how did I perform, and it's checking the boxes. So it's checking my intensity, how intense, how was my mindset, how much intensity was I able to give, how much clarity did I have, what my technical skills like, and it's writing down everything. So again, it's taking responsibility for the outcome of it. And I always encourage positive criticism, because I don't find negative. Like, teens love to be unkind to themselves. Like I just said with Z, she was judging herself against somebody else, and I just reminded her that she was the diver, not the judge. So she's her goal and her role is to go and dive, not to be the judge. And then Sue, it's a really big thing about the Gazing Red to Blue is that it gives all of the team members a common language. It's a language that as team members they can, because you can't concentrate fully all the time. So it's a tool that your teammates can call you out on in a very gentle and kind way. That you can say, Sue, redhead, and you're like, okay, you know what to do to bring yourself back into the blue. You know that somebody's distracted you. If it was a bad call, or you know, if you're throwing your hands up in the air because it was a bad call, it means the ball's up the field and they could have counterattacked. So it gives the team a language that they can communicate effectively within that. And then, as I said, with the parents, it gives us a common language too. In that session, I'll again focus on the grounding, and where it says laser guided, what that means is, like with the golfers, I don't think Lejean's on the call at the moment, but for them, they can't concentrate for 3-4 hours straight. So when you've lost your attention, the laser is like you find a spot on the wall and you pretend there's a laser spot, and then you move the spot. So now your attention's on that spot. It's not in the mind swirling monkey mind. With the golfers, I would say, okay, look for leaves and look for different colors on the leaves. You're looking for the light green and the dark green and the shade and the whatever. So you're not zooming in, you're zooming out completely, but you're not letting your mind shoot off into
Cloudland.
Yeah, not looking off to the scoreboard or what went before. And then in our final session, again, it's all focused on attention, where your attention goes. And then in our final session, the webinar, I'll bring in Martin Fenn and Alejandro, and they are the head guides of Gazing Red to Blue in the UK. So then everybody will get a different voice. And I'm wondering if the parents could also be included in that Zoom.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. But they will just give a different voice and different perspective to the youngsters. So
okay.
that is the course.
Yeah, sure. Joe, I'm so excited to get stuck into it, and I really hope and encourage our players to join up. There's absolutely no doubt that there's going to be really practical tools and simple tools. I mean, nothing's simple, but tools that you can actually implement, not tools that are complex. Yeah. And I think the age we're dealing with, simple concepts, red, blue, and I know that you'll teach them about those, and they're practically orientated, and it's hockey orientated, and it's youngster orientated. So everything that the skills players need and struggle with, they come to this course and hopefully, well, I know, get and develop some mental tenacity and some focus. So that's amazing, Joe. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having us on your show. Thank you for being.
No, that's a pleasure. But like having a mindset edge, I mean, a mindset skill gives you the edge. It really, I really, really think so. Does anybody who's on the call have any questions?
I saw Michael Cowan gave us a high five. I know
he's so kind.
He's keen to.
I actually think he gave us a heart.
Yeah, shame. Now I'm going to be embarrassing, but I know he's very keen to do it. I don't know if there'll be others in his age group. I mean, he's now under 19, but he's very keen to develop the skill and just to try and take his game and to whatever level he can. So it's great to have people of that age group looking to better themselves into their hockey as they go on this journey as well.
Well, so the reality is I've worked with that age group and older. So yeah. That's it's not for only youngsters. I just think it's fundamental that the youngsters get to learn this skill early. Yeah. You can learn it at any age, but I think teams specifically would hugely benefit. So yeah, if we could get a young adult group together, it would be fantastic. Yeah. And just so people understand, we're doing it on Zoom because the kids are so busy that unless this was implemented into the school program, we can't do it during the school day. So that's why we're doing it via Zoom to reach people wherever they are in the evening.
And Joe, just to recap, the is we're going to do 1 hour a week. We're going to pick an evening, late afternoon. We're going to what can suit the majority. And then we're going to go with that. And we're probably going to start within the next 2 weeks because we really want to get everything signed up this week and then start rolling, because we've mentioned already hockey's coming thick and fast, and kids want to have these skills as they start trialing and going through pre-season, because that's also really stressful, and it's make or break quite early. We want to get supporting them really quickly.
Yeah. Wonderful. Sue, thank you so much. So
Yeah,
lovely to chat to you.
and to you, Joe. Thank you so much. And yeah, thanks to everyone from our side and everyone from Joe's side who's joined in and listened to the call. We really hope that you guys found. Always contact us on the side. The information will be shared again on our Instagram page, the costs. But any other questions, you will direct them to either myself or Joe, and we'll help answer them.
Great. Okay, Sue.
Good. Cheers.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Cheers. Bye.